As best you can, establishing yourself in a posture that embodies wakefulness and dignity. And the full motivation and intentionality for what brought you here at this particular moment, whatever time zone you happen to be in. And whether you're joining us for the first time or whether you've been here, this is now week 12, day 2 of our retreat time together. Dropping right into the present moment. Alone and all of us together. And giving yourself over to the cultivation of mindfulness, the embodiment of open-hearted, wakeful presence, as if there were no tomorrow. And taking a presidency in the only moment of our lives that we ever actually have, which is this one. And dropping into stillness. I'm not trying to shut off the waves of the mind, but dropping underneath the waves of the mind into the vast spaciousness of awareness that is not perturbed by thoughts or emotions or sensations in the body. But just puts out the welcome mat for whatever is here as we rest in moment by moment by moment wakefulness. Anchoring our attention to the breath if that feels important and reliable and comfortable. But remembering, keeping in mind that it's not the objects of attention, whatever ones we choose to feature, that is the real concern of the meditation practice, but the attending, excuse me, but the attending itself. Apologies again for the coughing. And resting here in awareness. How are you in relationship to this moment? Is there any degree of calmness? Is there agitation? A roiling of thoughts and emotions? Whatever is here is fine. We can put out the welcome mat for it all as kind of like weather patterns in the mind. And the real challenge of mindfulness practice is how are we going to be in relationship to what's unfolding inwardly and outwardly, moment by moment, as life unfolds. And even in formal sitting practice, life is unfolding moment by moment. Your life, my life. How can we be in wise relationship to it? So how are you in relationship to it right in this moment? To whatever is here? Whether it's thoughts of the future or thoughts of the past or challenges, emotional dilemmas or conundrums of one kind or another. There's no problem with any of this. This is the curriculum. Even if we weren't in the midst of a pandemic, this would be the only curriculum, whatever is arising. And how will we be in relationship to it? Moment by moment by moment. So the practice can actually sometimes feel quite messy. And it's not like you're kind of doing it wrong or doing anything wrong. It's just life is messy. All sorts of stuff arises that we wish wouldn't. We don't always handle it as best we might. And so we can also get caught up in regret or judging of ourselves. And can we just embrace it all in awareness and be the knowing, as we've been saying from the very beginning, be the knowing that awareness already is and always has been. And I'm purposefully not saying your awareness, because who's going to claim it as mine? Who would that be even? And when we befriend awareness and inhabit awareness in this way and cultivate equanimity and clarity and a stability of mind and the possibility of insight into deep interconnectedness, that is the practice. And it's not about getting some fruit of the practice further down the road. The fruit is right here in this moment. The fruit of seeing into how caught up we can get, how attached we can be, how tumultuous the mind is, and then intentionally, excuse me, intentionally not taking it personally. And so can we be at home and can we be fully who we are right in this only moment without any hidden or secret agendas for getting someplace else further down the road. And then the practice becomes effortless. A radical act of sanity, just to stop and drop in, to be and suspend all the doing for a moment at least. And thinking is a very active kind of doing in its own right. We're not trying to suppress it, but we also don't need to feed it or make it the enemy. And then when it's time to do, we can let the whatever doing we're going to be engaged in come out of this domain of being that's totally portable with us 24/7 and transforms our doing into something very different from automaticity, reactivity, goal-oriented, driven efforts at getting someplace else. And that, of course, doesn't have anything to do with being creative or being productive or uh, contributing to the world in profound ways that require a lot of work and effort. But still, the doing can come out of the wisdom of being that we've been cultivating now for quite some time. And in fact, I've been saying for quite some time that the world is starving for that kind of doing to come out of you and me and all of us to make our perhaps little but not insignificant contributions to the world. They're part of the meditation practice too. When we remember, when we intend to show up in our lives moment by moment by moment by moment by moment. And carry the fullness of our being, of our hearts, of our multiple intelligences with us. Don't leave anything at home when you're out in the world. Or another way to put it would be at home wherever you are, wherever you go. Is that even possible? So for the remaining few moments of this sitting, let's actually be at home in our own bodies more intentionally, in case the body's kind of gotten lost in the vastness of the awareness. Let's feature the body, sitting here, lying here, whatever position you're in. And simply falling awake. with no place to go, nothing to do, and no special something that you are trying to attain. Because it's all already here. When the heart is aligned with the possible, the world's already different, even if it's going to take years or decades for the totality of it to emerge in whatever forms it will. And we can take responsibility for that without pushing the river, but at the same time contributing in ways that are absolutely necessary for this world to flower. It needs you to be you 100%. And that's not a burden. It's an invitation. It's a gift that you can give yourself to live the life that's yours to live while the breath is still moving in and out of your body, which, of course, as we all know, is not forever. So how is it in the body right now? In the carriage of the body. Can you feel that without any efforting, by taking your seat, metaphorically or literally, you're taking a stand in your life, aligning yourself with what's deepest and best and most beautiful and human in yourself. Whole and part of larger and larger circles of wholeness. Right in this moment. And when you're ready, let's slowly invite our eyes to open if they've been closed, or if they have been open, to just kind of stay with the flowing of what's unfolding. Again, the spirit of life itself being the retreat, although I rang the bells at the beginning, I won't ring them now. As we move towards June 26th, the week from Friday, when we said that we would end this mitigation retreat for a time, at least in its present form, and see what emerges for all of us. And once we do that, I feel like it's really, really important to not idealize the practice or turn it into a thing or become nostalgic about it, but to actually keep in mind that it's an ongoing challenge to string even two moments of mindfulness together. This has got to be just about the hardest work for us human beings to do, although it's not really work. But it's not easy to actually be fully awake, even for, say, one in-breath rising, never mind for the out-breath that's going to follow it. And that's why we've been emphasizing from the very beginning, a certain kind of cultivation of intimacy with this moment without striving, without an attachment to some kind of goal or outcome. Not that this doesn't transform us and heal us, it does, but not in the ways we think and cannot be forced. But when we align ourselves with this kind of practice and intentionality, everything's already different in this no time we call now. And it can be very messy, as was said earlier, very messy. And that's part of the practice. That's part of the full catastrophe, so to speak, of the human condition. It's hard, it's messy, and it's also pretty essential. And it also, in some sense, nurtures a form of intelligence that we don't know that we actually have. So I've been emphasizing from the beginning that there's no one right way to practice, and that your instincts and intuition are really important in alignment with the kind of basic meditative guidelines or instructions. And I'll give you one example that we're all kind of familiar with, and that is like when you're walking over rough terrain, let's say you're hiking or you're out in the woods or whatever, on a mountain or any place where you're off the beaten path. Your feet know how to take the weight of your body without your having to give it a lot of thought, even stepping stones across a stream or something like that. For the most part, it's all taken care of by a certain kind of intelligence, somatic body intelligence that we don't even know we have. And if you were to walk that way, on different days, your feet would choose totally different ways to land and to carry your body and to move that you might not be at all aware of, but that wouldn't be, oh, this is the way to do it. You always step here and then you put the foot there and then you think. You'd never get anywhere if your thinking mind had to get involved in how your feet were going to land. And it's the same with the meditation practice. It's not something you have to think about and force. It's much more something that we give ourselves over to and apprehend how many different ways we can be in relationship with this moment in a way that's authentic and that gets out from under the narrative about the best way to do it. And certain meditation narratives can be as imprisoning as any other kind of narrative or, story we tell ourselves. So moving forward, and especially once we're not coming online every day the way we are, you'll, I think, have more and more of a sense, whether you're new to the practice or you've been practicing for decades, that life itself is the real teacher. And it will provide us with moment by moment by moment with everything that we actually need in order to find those ways to take the step and land in a way that has, gravitas and affordance. It can carry the weight of this moment and propel us into the next moment. And I say this because we're really going into the unknown. I mean, let's not forget this was like, begun because of a global pandemic that is still killing people at an enormous rate that a lot of people don't even believe is, real. That they think that it's just kind of like, you know, a figment of some people's imagination. And then we have everything else that's going on in the world, as we've been talking about for months now. And so how we approach the practice makes all the difference in how embodied it will be and how much we can have our ear to the rail and really listen to what not only our own hearts, but our children, our parents, our jobs, if we have jobs, the world, what's going on in the world, the condition of the planet, all of that then becomes everything becomes our teacher. So, Soren, let's go to see if there's anybody that would like to say something or reflect on something, or ask a question.
Just know that if we pick you, your voice and image will be live on the internet, and not only here, but also on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing MJ. Welcome, MJ. You are, looks like I can, yeah, there you are. Welcome.
Thank you
Where
very
you
much.
come and question, comment, reflection, anything?
Yes,
Thank you.
I am MJ. I'm MJ from the Magic City of the Sunshine State. That is Miami, Florida. Thank you, Zorn and John B., my brothers from another mother. JKZ, I cannot thank you enough for what you have done for this community of love and compassion. I've been a part of the MBSR with the school system of Miami-Dade County Public School for quite some time. Started out with Valerie Zimmerman.
Yep, York.
And I'm quite sure you're aware of Miss York.
Yep.
So I have been amongst some great teachers. So I'm very, very grateful for that.
That's beautiful.
My question is twofold. There was a gentleman that asked you a couple of weeks ago, it was towards the end of one of the sessions, and he asked you about why you do what you do, and you briefly told him karma.
Yeah, the one-word answer.
So exactly. So I would like for you to elaborate on that. And the second question is, I have a countdown now, and it's a beautiful countdown. And not too far from Orlando, we just put people into space from the Kennedy Space Center.
Yeah.
So I see this this celebration that we've been a part of for the last 3 months as a blast off, as you would always use, of all the beautiful flowers to really see what can transpire, because we have those out doing the work, the foot soldiers out doing the work, and we're holding the vision.
Yeah.
Here. And there's a lot of pain, but I am hopeful. As an African American, I am so hopeful because now the conversation is being had. We're ripping that Band-Aid off of that wound that's been here for 401 years, and we're starting to look at it. And that is hope for the future. And I ask the question all the time, what is mine to do at this point in juncture? What is mine to do? Not sitting in I sit in the pain for a while because I know the pain can turn to suffering. And we've suffered for so long. And I'm so grateful that you had the wherewithal to start to educate not only our brothers and sisters that are light complexion, but also us, because in the school system, it disregards our history. It doesn't tell us who we are and where we come from, of the great and magnificent people that we are. And there's so much self-hatred. And Gayle King had a wonderful CBS for Justice for All. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it because it really was powerful from every spectrum.
Gayle King, did you say?
Yes, Gayle King.
I will check it out.
Last night, and it said for Justice for All, and it just laid everything on the table. And the reason that I'm saying that now is because I asked myself, what is mine to do? I know I can't go to the front lines, and that's okay. Everybody has their space. But I have a child, I have two children. I have a 10-year-old and 11-year-old, 5th grade and 6th grade, beautiful children. I love them with all my heart, and I adopted them because my brother was addicted. So there's a lot of history for our community. And Audre Lorde said it best, radical self-compassion, the poet Audre Lorde. And I beg and plead that when we're in rooms, don't be afraid. Check people. If they say off-slide comment, this is the only way that I know we're going to heal. We have to start checking each other. And we do it out of loving kindness. And we see that Marianne Williamson always said, when we let our light shine, we give everybody permission to let theirs shine. And that's exactly what's happening in our country, which has evolved into the world, because now we're letting our light shine. And now in France, in Brazil, from what has happened here with Mr. George Floyd, that Band-Aid ripoff is giving everybody else permission to let their light shine. So with that being said, I won't take up any more of your time. But with my to-do, I know, and I stay in my meditation, and I let that sink in with me, and it comes. And I'm grateful for that, because I don't know what I would have done without this community, keeping me solid on the ground when everything is in turmoil. So it's going around, but I am centered, and I know there's going to be a better tomorrow. So thank you for this.
Wow. Is it MJ?
Mary Jones, MJ. I go by MJ.
Okay.
Yes, but I go by MJ.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad that you got to speak. And who's this?
This is my son, Jerry.
Hi there, Jerry. I'm Jon. I'm Jon. Is there somebody else there who's about to come too? Did I hear another voice? Yes. Hi there. Hi. How are you doing?
Yes.
Good, good. It's really nice to meet you both. So, do you guys meditate? Do you watch your mama meditate sometimes?
Yes.
Yeah, do you meditate with her?
Sometimes she's meditating.
Because I think that, like, you know, the younger you are, the more you are naturally meditating. So you don't necessarily need to meditate the way all us older people do.
Tell him the book you're reading. Thich Nhat Hanh.
How to fight.
With Thich Nhat Hanh. He reads passages every day, and we
Oh,
sit down
no
and
kidding.
discuss
No
how to
kidding.
fight, little passages. So
Yeah.
yeah,
The miracle of mindfulness or something else.
it's a little tiny book, how to love, how to fight.
Oh yeah, he has a whole series of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, beautiful, beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
really nice to meet them. And you know, I feel like in some sense, you asked some questions, but I don't think they really need answers from me, because I think you said so much that was nurturing to all of us that, in some sense, that original question about like, my one word answer was karma. You're demonstrating that every single one of us is unique. And rather than falling into some kind of cliche or other, we're each finding our own way to make a difference in the world in the midst of all of the challenges and the suffering and also the beauty, and taking care of what and who needs taking care of. They got bored fairly quickly, and rightfully so. Talk, talk, talk. But the you see, you're in some sense demonstrating that one word karma answer yourself, because this is your karma, so to speak, is to be able to stand in the worlds that you stand in and unify them and bring these worlds together. And I think that's what the challenge is for all of us, is to bring sanity and clarity and an understanding of the nature of our own minds and hearts, rather than othering each other, recognizing the deep connectivity and allowing the difference to really manifest as beauty, even if we're unfamiliar with it. And that's probably a more important part of the curriculum than anything that Dade County is teaching in school. And about the blasting off from Cape Kennedy, yeah, we're blasting off in many, many ways into new worlds, one of which is the kind of world of technology, which is amazing because those rockets actually land. They come back and they land, soft landings, just like that wasn't the case in the 60s when I was first watching the rockets go up. And in terms of what's going on in the streets, which was also happening in the 60s, then not enough came of it. This is one of those moments where we have to not like just let our presencing in the street be sufficient. We have to do the hard work of transforming the inequities that are baked into our society. But we'll have another 400 years of that kind of thing, and easy for people to paper it over if it's not, right in, sort of, if the effects of it are not immediately obvious in their own lives. And so that creates kind of distance and suffering that's now intolerable. If we say liberty and justice and economic, sufficiency for all, it's got to be all, or it's a disease or a dis-ease that we're seeing the horrific outcome of it from. So I just am thrilled that you're with the Miami-Dade County schools, and there's a big, long-standing mindfulness program going on there, as I understand it, and with a lot of community support and backing. And I just bow to you for it. Really bow to you for it.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you and the community. It's really been a blessing to be able to just sit at the feet of everybody and listen of all the stories and all the questions, because every last one of them have been, in some way, some form, touching and really helping get through this challenge that I know we will get through.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your conviction on that score, because we need to affirm over and over again that we will actually get through, that we will actually overcome, that we will actually transform the underlying root causes of racism and injustice, because we're beginning to see that the country cannot survive without that. We cannot live the lie and the violence underneath it any longer. It's just not viable. And how we do it, how we thread that needle, mindfulness has to be a part of it. Compassion has to be a part of it, because otherwise we'll do it with unawareness, and the unawareness will just create more delusion, suffering, and the kind of greed that drove it in this direction in the first place. Yeah, it's a very, very serious moment, and I don't want to, sort of disregard the seriousness altogether, but the stakes are so huge because of the children
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and what world we are bequeathing to them. So that means that, much as people might want to go to the mountaintop and just meditate in a cave or whatever their romantic notion of like true meditative bliss would be, uh, there's neither wisdom nor compassion in that if you're sensitive to the cries of the world. And it may be that you can have it both ways. We need periods of renewal or sort of retreat where we do go off and are quiet and silent, but we also need to, each one of us, to contribute in whatever ways you can. And I'm just totally honored to meet you, even in this funny, way on a screen, and know that you're out there with, I'm hoping, a lot of other people in community support, bringing sanity and a certain kind of fundamental dignity to the process of educating the next generation. Because what they are going to need to know in the world they're entering into is nothing that we could teach them except how to be. Everything else that we think, their world is going to be so different from what we can imagine with the rockets landing and everything else in terms of digital technology, biotechnology, and everything. But they are going to need to know how to appreciate their own beauty and
Absolutely.
appreciate the beauty of other people who look like them and who don't look like them. And how to work together in groups, because most work is going to be like teamwork.
Yes.
And God knows whether we're ever going to go back to the way work was before. So I wish we could keep talking in a way, because I have a sense that you have an awful lot more to contribute to this conversation. And so to come back to your original point, that's exactly the purpose of this retreat, is that we will all go off and we will, by our very being and our intentionality and the love affair of this practice, however we instantiate it, will actually heal and transform the world. Just a small sort of, I won't call it a goal, but an intention that is, I think, worth affirming every day, or maybe even with every breath.
Absolutely. And I affirm it with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Zorn. Appreciate you.
Say hi to Valerie for me, if you see her.
Thank you so
And
much.
Olivier, and put her back on.
Yeah, let's see.
Say hi to,
All right.
hold on, we're gonna get you. Can you unmute? Yeah.
You have to make MBSR more accessible. That's the
MBSR?
only more accessible, because I'm going with Jack Korn and Tara Brock in order to become a licensed teacher. And with MBSR, you got to jump through a lot of hoops. So
Yeah, well,
keep
that's,
that in mind.
thank you. I really appreciate your saying that. And I hope the MBSR people who are doing those kinds of professional trainings are hearing what you're saying, because, if I had my way, it'd be totally free.
Thank you.
And in fact, when push comes to shove, it's already totally free. And
Absolutely.
it is free in the most profound way. And we need to reduce all the barriers to the people who want to move in that direction professionally and bring it into their work. We don't want to create hurdles and barriers. And that's one of the big agendas now throughout America, to reduce those kinds of hurdles of all kinds, to what people most need to realize our full potential.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming back on for that. That's like crucial. Appreciate that. And I'm going to pass it on.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's see, Antonio, welcome. Asking you to unmute. You see the little, there should be a little notice. There you are. I think you're with us.
Well,
Welcome.
thank you very much, Soren. What a surprise. Yeah, I didn't expect to be picked, but anyway. Jon, these have been wonderful weeks. I've been going through all these sea of feelings and experiences, sometimes like big waves. I don't know. I started as an engineer, and then I did a master's in international management. And I remember there that I studied some entrepreneurship, and the professor used to tell us that entrepreneurs were those people who would embrace uncertainty, ambiguity. And I don't know. I don't know if I have been able to embrace all this ambiguity, because it's too much. It's really, sometimes I have felt a lot of fear. I've been feeling frightened because I have well, my son will be born in maybe 6 weeks. So as you well said, this is a whole new world, a whole new way of living. And I don't know, I find in mindfulness, in my practice, a way of being here and overcoming this fear that grows sometimes, but mostly living in this, I don't know, in this loving way, even if there's so much violence around. I live in Mexico. I'm from Mexico, in Puebla, Mexico. And here we are experiencing robberies, a lot of violence, and things that kind of set us apart. But in another way, it I see the chance of this filling up our bucket, and suddenly we'll be able to find a new way of seeing and really act with compassion and love and share our humanity, so we can grow further and deeper, and really come back and create societies, even though it's fearful for me now, because in a way we are distanced. So I cannot see clearly how we are going to get together. Here in Mexico, we are very much used to be hugging and loving. Some years ago, that stopped being part of our lives, mainly in schools for children, because of all the abuses that were coming into place. And that was very sad. But now it's even then, then the societies, the little communities started building fences around. Yeah. When I was a kid, there were no fences. Yeah. And now there's no place that has no fences. Yeah. So now we're coming to kind of a breaking point that we have the opportunity. I don't know if we are, I am hopeful that we, and I'm talking about all the people, all the participants in these conferences, on these calls, because I think we believe, and we are here to share and to embrace it. But I hope it's enough.
Me too. Me too, Antonio. And very, very touched that that you're saying this. And you know, I've been talking mostly about the pain and suffering endemic in the United States, because that's my country. There's enormous amount of pain and suffering in Mexico. We share some of the same horrible history. And, you know, we don't need to go into detail about the horrors that, you know, are part of the, you know, sort of various countries we find ourselves in. But the potential for transformation, it never looks like anything can happen because the power is so tightly held by the people in power. And you know what? That can change in a second. And we've seen million, you know, examples throughout history of, like, you know, it seems like inassailable power in the hands of a very few, you know, sort of tyrants. And then all of a sudden something else shifts. So there's a certain way in which we're basically attempting to plant the seeds that are possible to plant and water the seeds that are possible to water. And we are those seeds. Or the other metaphor that I'm using is we are the cells of the one body politic, whether it's Mexico, whether it's the United States, or whether it's the planet Earth. And we don't get to control the whole situation. But if we take responsibility for the degrees of freedom that we already have, I've been using this sort of pandemic metaphor that it too is infectious. It's like a meme that everybody wants to be happy, as the Dalai Lama, you know, is very, you know, well known for saying. Everybody wants happiness. It's just that sometimes people grasp at happiness at the expense of other people's well-being altogether. And that's going to really have to come into a much more equitable balance. I don't know how that's going to happen in Mexico any more than I know how that's going to happen in the United States. But the fact that you're on the call and you care and you're about to become have a new baby in the family, that, you know, is in some sense the only motivator that we ever need to actually take care of the world that we're going to bequeath to our children and grandchildren. Excuse me. So the most important thing would be keep up your practice and keep asking yourself, what does that mean? Because it's not just sort of sitting or doing body scan. Now it's going to be, is this your first child?
No, no, actually, I'm training to become an MBSR, facilitator.
Yeah.
And I do teach mindfulness.
Oh, wonderful.
2 years ago, I was diagnosed with MS 10 years ago. So my whole life shifted from businesses and construction and things all over the world to knowing myself, because I couldn't walk and I couldn't see. So it came back again. So I found mindfulness. I found you. I've taken some of the courses that you have in Sounds True, and it has changed my life. But although it has changed my life, this is, it's a big challenge.
Yeah,
and
of course.
I believe this is the way. I mean, this is not the only way, but this is a very important way.
Yeah, you're right. It's not the only way, but also you'll find your way. And the question I asked you was, is this your first child that you're expecting that's going to be born?
Sorry.
No,
John,
I just want to know. It's not.
yes,
I'm gonna.
my first child.
Well, I want to just congratulate you on that, because you're going to actually be receiving a very powerful teacher into the family, mindfulness teacher,
Okay.
that, you know, will, I think, really help not only motivate you, but demonstrate what it is that's most important on a moment by moment and day-to-day basis. In terms of MBSR and transforming the society in which you find yourself in, it's a long-term engagement. And the only necessary thing is to just start where you are and do what you can and not be attached to the outcome. Because when we really go crazy is when we we reify a fixed outcome, and then we force things to be the way we want them to be. That's not mindfulness. That's not wisdom. That's not compassionate either to ourselves or to other people that we may other into being an enemy. So it's a really profound challenge that the thinking mind is never going to be able to sort its way through. But the heart, you never know. And that's where the potential for true healing and transformation will come from. And I have every confidence in that, which is why I do what I do. And
I
I'm
think
so touched that we're in connection this way, beyond time and space, so to speak, but very much in this time and very much in this space. Good
thank
luck
you.
with you. Good luck to you in all of this. And thank you so much for letting us know where you're at this particular moment.
Thank you very much, Jon, and thank everybody who's here with us. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
I think we're here again.
Yep, we're here again, and it's now again.
So we are going to break up into small groups. So these will be groups of maybe 5 to 7 people to get to know the community. Many people have spoken about the power, not only of doing the meditation and of the Q&A, but also of the community that's here. That's from over 120 different countries. So we get to break out on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we'll spend about 45 minutes getting to know one another, talking about what's true, what's real, what's our own direct experience is like practicing. And so we're going to do it in 2 different groups. So if your first name of your letter, first name begins with A through M, go to www.wisdom2conference.com/group1. And if your name begins with N through Z, wisdom2conference/group2. So please write this down or take a picture of it with your phone or snap a screenshot, because in a few minutes, we're going to be closing this. And what you're going to do is you're going to enter one of those URLs, one of those website addresses in your browser, whether it's Chrome or Firefox or whatever you use, Safari, just like you were entering a website to go to google.com or youtube.com. What's going to happen is a different Zoom group will begin. So we're going to close this one. You'll enter one of those addresses in your browser, and we'll meet you in a separate Zoom session. So, so Jon's going to take that down now, and we will spend a few minutes just saying goodbye here. And if you can't make it, we'll see you tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube, you're more than welcome to join us as well in the small group dialogues. And anything else, Jon, before we say some goodbyes?
No, that's it, except to say see you tomorrow if you can make it. We're kind of counting down, just like for a space launch. We're counting down the days to when this retreat comes to an end. We don't know what will flower as a result of this, but something will flower, and we will definitely be part of it. We don't know when that will emerge back on YouTube or whatever, or Zoom or whatever. But for now, to the degree that it's possible, see you tomorrow and see you in the small group, perhaps right now.
So wonderful. So you can now mute yourself, and we can say some goodbyes here.
Hasta
Thank you, Jon and Soren.
It's been a beautiful evening, guys.
And thank you, Soren, and thank you everyone in the community.
Thank you.
Soren.
Buonanotte.
And Soren.
Talia.
Everybody, take
Grazie.
care.
Bye.
Everybody.
Bye.
Peter. Bye. Bye.
First,
Thank you.
Ricardo.
Green Thomas.
Hello.
Wang.
Thank you, moderator. Nice to see you all. Thank you.
Riley.